it is such a pleasure to be here. And what I really like about the Global AI Conclave is the tagline. It says from hype to impact. And I think that's a very important part of our conversation today. But before we jump into, translating what does hype mean and what does impact translate into, I thought we should start about the word AI. And I love what Prime Minister said, that AI is also about, there's two words to AI. I'm probably adding the third word, which AI is also an amazing India moment. And for those who have heard me speak before, I think I've used this a lot. It's because I truly feel that this is a moment where there is so many pieces that are coming together in this country that it can really leapfrog us across any other thing that we see in the rest of the world. Now, some of the ingredients that makes this a very amazing India moment is, and I'm sure you've heard this before, is the first thing is that the most important element for AI is data. And the best part of data is that we have an abundance of it. There are many other resources that we are short, but one of the best things, because of just the rapid digitization that our society has, is that the data abundance is all around us. And in fact, if you go look at it, majority of our data is still consumer. 80% of the data is video, and it's consumer. We still haven't connected the machines, we haven't connected the industries, we haven't connected the factories. So we're just getting warmed up in the AI revolution. The second piece that I think sets us apart is just the mindset of frugality that we have, right? And that I think is very important because we're not in the race to go spend the maximum amount of money. I think our middle class mindset, our ways of just trying to go solve problems in the most frugal way really sets us apart. And one of the things that we have done successfully is, I can give you the example of broadband. Most of the Western world followed fixed broadband and laid cables and fiber, and it's still important. We still need fixed broadband. But we leapfrogged internet connection by 4G, and that was the Geo moment that really turned, how connectivity in this country gets done. Skills is the other important part. 16% of the world's AI talent, that number is 16, 20. I think there's multiple numbers that you'll start to see. But we do have abundance of AI talent. But for me, it's just beyond what talent we have today. It's the way in which we have the ability to learn and unlearn, right? Take the time from Y2K. I think we are one of those societies that will rapidly learn something, and then when the next thing comes, we are quick to go learn and unlearn in that same pace. That is a very unique skill as a nation because our adaptability is what sets us apart. And the last one, I think, which Nalin mentioned as well, which is the will for us to go do things, is very high. We have taken big bets on semiconductor manufacturing, the large big bets, which are multi-year, audacious goals. AI mission was also mentioned, which is to go create capacity that we very much need. I think the will, whether it's the state government, whether it's the central government, all of them have the right intention that this is a moment for us to leapfrog, right? And it is an amazing India moment that we have. But one of the things that I really worry about is that can this be a truly amazing India moment if you follow the path that the West lays out, okay? And the reason I say this is because if you follow the same formula, we may not be really successful in the journey that we are on. To give you an example, let's talk about large data centers. We produce 20% of the world's data. We have 3% of the world's servers, okay? So we got to go build large data centers. So we are in that pursuit to go build large data centers. Don't get me wrong, I still think we need large data centers. But even tripling our capacity gets us to about 4% of what US has today. So from 1 gigawatt, we're moving to 3 gigawatts in terms of data center capacity. But that just gets us to 4% of what US has today. In fact, one city in the US, which is Northern Virginia, has about 2x the capacity that all of India has today. Okay? So as much as it is important for us to go build data center capacity, we have to start to think that, okay, can it really scale for the need and the demands that we have? The second piece is LLM. The whole race to LLMs, right? Very important. I'm not saying that we don't need LLMs in India. We definitely need Indic languages, local cultural context, and I'm so happy that there are many companies that are on that way. But majority of the LLM models that are used, 7 across, are outside of India. We have work to do to get there, and we have to start to think like, how do I make LLMs in the most cost-effective manner and not follow the whole path of high capital investment and infrastructure for us, right? Just to give you an example, like if you look at many of the leading models, they spend about $100 million plus to go train a frontier model. That's the minimum amount of expenses that is required. And the cost is not just, financial cost. The cost is also, the environmental cost, right? 1 megawatt data center, if you go look at it, I think requires about 69,000 liters of water. And if you take 200 megawatts that probably Bangalore has, that can basically go and give water to about 150,000 homes in Bangalore, right? And we all know that we are 18% of the world's population with 4% of the world's water. So we are limited. So the more you go start build power hungry, capital intensive, fixed infrastructure, the lesser we have resources to go support that model, okay? And the cost, whether it's environmental or the cost in terms of financial, is extremely high. In fact, if you go and build a GPU accelerator-centric 1 gigawatt data center today, it costs you more than $10 billion today. $10 billion of capital investment that it requires to go build that, right? You can build probably a semiconductor plant in a cost lower than that, okay? So it is something that we have to start to think that by just following the ways that the West goes and lays out and following the ways that the models are built everywhere else, we may not be in the path that we can afford, or that may not be the best path for us to be successful. Now, so what do? How do we go tackle this problem? How do we go solve this problem? And I think the best way is for us to reimagine what AI can be. And it requires all of us to think a little differently. How do we get AI everywhere, right? How do we not think that this AI is just one big processing, one big model, one big, whatever, Jarvis that comes out and solves the big problem for us, right? How do we reimagine that it's going to be everywhere? It needs to be like the way in which many of our scalable technologies have done, that will go use the data where it's generated. So I think that's the first step. Second one, I think we've got to start to think that we need a heterogeneous architecture to go harness AI. It's not just CPU, it's not just GPU, it's not just accelerators. It has to be a combination of infrastructure, a combination of models that will really help us go be successful, right? And I use this word frugai here, which is like, frugal way of going and doing AI. Really important for us, right? And we as a country, we have done this so many times before. And the best example that I came across was, the way ISRO did that. If you go look at Chandrayaan-3, that was done at the 1/4 the cost of what NASA did, right? And in fact, it was lower than the cost of the movie Gravity that they spent $100 million. We did it at $74 million. We actually sent a rover to the moon, right? So it's fascinating that we can go and do the same things, the same objective, in fact, in a better way, at a much lower cost. If you go look at 01.ai, and it's not just us doing, right? Other countries, like China is a good example I can give you. 01.ai, which was, I think it's probably the top 3 best LLMs used in the world. And Kai-Fu Lee, I think for most of you know that, is one of the founders of that company. And they built a large language model at a few $1 million compared to, the hundreds of millions of dollars that the other models are built on. Now, you can go and debate whether, hey, is the model great? Is it better or not? I think that debate is out there. But the fact that constraints on China forced them to go innovate, right? They did not have access to GPUs. They did not have access to all the high-end computing platforms. Therefore, they're going and innovating in the most frugal way that they can do. We have that choice. We have access, but I think our resources and the frugality will help us scale AI much better, right? Now, one of the companies, and one of the fascinating ways we have done it in recent times is just the way Aadhaar, UPI, And some of these key technologies you've seen, right? And you've seen that scale across the country, and you've seen that in the hands of so many. And you know, Nandan's been a key pioneer in helping us on that way. And I'm really excited that, you know, I have someone from Infosys here because they've had that mindset to go build frugality. They've had that mindset of scale. And I'm excited that I have Bali here with us. He is the EVP and the head of automation and AI. And I would love to have a conversation with Bali on this topic. So Bali, please come up on stage. That's your mic. Behind. So Bali, thank you. Pleasure for you to be here, and I'm glad that you're here with us. And you know, as we were speaking about scale, and I know that Infosys is catering to the enterprise audience, and that's the key piece. What is your vision of AI, and how are you starting to see that pan across the enterprise?
Yeah. So just like you talked about AI everywhere, the way that we look at it in enterprise is that AI can be applicable for every role. And now with agentic AI, every business process that you can actually apply AI. But enterprises have multiple challenges, right? They have challenges on really identifying the right use cases. They have challenges, you talked about the data problem. The enterprises have data, but it is not curated data. They don't know how to be able to use it, right? How do you make sure that you're getting the right data, the current data, the right lineage, like security controls, right? They have challenges around that. They have challenges around responsible AI and how they're making sure that the AI they're using is trustworthy, safe, without hallucination, and all of those aspects on responsible AI. But there is also the important factor that most enterprises are realizing now is on the ROI and the cost of actually serving AI use cases, right? And what we have seen is, right, for many of the enterprise use cases, you actually don't need the very large language models. You need smaller models purposefully built for a specific need. And these are, right, small language models, anywhere from 2 to 7 billion parameter models that you can use, train it for your enterprise requirements and use it for a specific task. In fact, Infosys itself, I think a month back, we released 2 small language models, one in the financial space, in the banking space, and one in the IT operations space. And we have built even a 1 billion parameter model that can run out of the laptops for developers to use for things like code completion, etc. Right? All of these things allow you to scale, bring down the cost, and leverage it for, as I said, every role, every business process that enterprise actually does.
Yeah, I mean, this is fascinating that you're saying about how smaller models are being the active source, and it leverages off or rides off the larger models. Now, I think one of the other big conversations that everybody has is the use case, right? That's like, everybody is like, show me a use case, then I will go decide how to deploy AI. How do you see the use case landscape in the enterprise space?
Yeah, the use case is actually growing, right? And there are multiple new use cases we are, discovering every day, so to speak, right? We used to have in the ML space, we used to talk about forecasting, predictive maintenance, and then it came to computer vision, right? Voice translation, right? Now with generative AI, what you can do is to actually get the entire knowledge of the enterprise in the hands of each and every individual, right? So your front-end salesperson can actually have all the content that is actually required to be able to respond to a customer. Your operation person can actually get that, right? Financial analysts can easily come up with putting together content analysis, right? So there are use cases around that. There's also content that you can generate. So we see a lot of use cases in the marketing space, right? To be able to generate sales collateral, marketing content, video content, right? Then the contact center is another big area, right? That we see a lot of use cases, right from automatic responses to helping the agents respond, language neutralization. The customer can speak in one language, the agent can know a different language, and they can still actually converse with the power of AI, providing nudges to the agents, call summarization. So many different use cases in generative AI. And with agentic AI, now you can actually look at business process and how to autonomously run business process. Of course, with a human in the loop, but you can bring a lot of efficiency to that, right? But there are also a lot of use cases in the edge, right? Whether it is autonomous cars, smart cameras for surveillance, right? And then, in industrial space, right? Smart manufacturing, right? Predictive maintenance, right? In smart agriculture, right? Medical devices, and now wearable devices that use for medical. A lot of edge use cases also that we are increasingly seeing in different industries.
Yeah, I mean, it is fascinating that you see such a breadth. Thank you so much for being here, Bali. Appreciate the partnership, and thank you for being here. And, and as you go and look at what Bali said, I think the most important aspect for us is to have technology that really connects everything. Scalable AI only happens if you really have key technology ingredients across. And one of the things I truly believe is like the Xeon, which is our workhorse, that's available in the country, can really be one of those fuels and drivers of AI in India. Now, we definitely need the GPUs, we definitely need the accelerators, and I'm not saying we don't need that, right? But if you just think of scale, we got to scale with what's most abundantly available, and I think we can go make that work. Because as Bali said, 15 to 20 billion parameter models can easily run off that. Most of the models are getting smaller, are getting more accurate. Most of them are becoming kind of like GPU free, less parallel, less energy, less memory. And you have to understand that there's 500,000 units that gets into the Xeon world or the CPU world that's there all around us that we can go innovate on versus the accelerators or GPUs or any of those heavy infrastructure that's in probably tens of thousands that exist, right? So we got to find a way to go make this the workhorse, and I think that's going to be a key element that will help us scale, just like we've done for the other technologies. The second disruption that's happening is when you go look at the edge. I think the window of creativity, your computer is starting to become AI now, right? With an NPU, with processing available there, local data, privacy that can be kept contained. There is a room for founders and startup innovators to go innovate that platform. There is a reinvention happening of that edge device that I think can really go fuel the next level of innovation that we can start to imagine. So there's opportunities for us to innovate even on the client space where we can start to think of how do we go and harness the power of AI with user-generated data. Good example, I can always think about tutoring and kids, right? The amount of tuition that we have with our children and the amount of writing and reading and learning that we do can just go and change. It can be personalized learning. We have a shortage of teachers. How can you augment the teachers' learning with trying and building, ways in which we train our kids in a very different way? So I think there's opportunity there. And the last one, which I think is an exciting one, is like I look at cell phone towers and I start to see that there's 950,000 cell phone towers in India. Each of them have a compute platform, they have a storage platform, they have fiber connectivity. Why can't they combine and start to behave like a data center? Why can't that be a sovereign cloud model that we can go build in India, right? Now, there are challenges. What about security? What about redundancy? What about orchestration layers? There is enough challenges to go solve it, but I think if we come collectively, there would be a path, there would be a way for us to go harness that. Now, all of this, when you start to build scale and when you start to have technology across all of these different platforms, just like what we did with our digitization efforts of UPI and Aadhaar and all of that available at scale, that's when magic happens, right? Everybody starts to innovate. Everybody starts to build application. It's not in the hands of the few, it's in the hands of the many. And one of the key aspects is, like last week I was at the Global AI Festival that we had organized, and there were 44 key winners from thousands of applications that was there. And it was fascinating to see the young minds go and solve problems, right? And I thought it would be best, I know this is an enterprise and a startup audience, but I just wanted probably everyone here to get a sense that what happens when you go build for scale, how innovation scales. And we have two, bright minds here. Rahul's from PES College in Bangalore that is here with us. And I thought I'll welcome them on stage and really talk about what they tried to go and solve. So Rahul, two Rahuls here, nice to see you. And please. Thank you, thanks for being here. And I was really excited seeing your project. Now, can you give the audience a flavor of what is WildSense and what was the project all about?
Right. So I've been a part of Intel Digital Readiness Program since my schooling days back in 2019. I've received various mentorship opportunities and learning experiences. It has empowered students like us to identify and tackle Globe's one of the most pressing challenges, right? And so one of the problems that we identified was when we saw a video of a tiger getting hit by a car in a sanctuary in Maharashtra. In the video, you could see it in a pathetic state, and it later went on to even lose its life. On further research, we actually found out that over 4 lakh such incidents happen in India every single year. Us both being wildlife enthusiasts, we just couldn't let it slide. And so we decided to do something about it, and that's how WildSense was born. WildSense is an AI-powered tool to help prevent these roadkills. So we use a multitude of array of sensors, cameras to try and detect these animals when they are crossing the road, and we alert drivers nearby. So using WildSense, we aim to prevent the loss of thousands of endangered animal lives.
No, it's amazing what you've done, because and you know, as a pet parent, I still feel it. Like when you drive through roads and you see whether it's dogs or whether it's any animals that's run over, it is the most painful feeling. You look at it and you think, how can you solve it? And I'm so glad you've taken the first step to go and solve. Now, how is it possible for you to go and solve this, right? Because this looks like a big problem. AI to go recognize an animal, then give an alert to a driver who's coming on the highway down the line. How easy or how difficult was this to go and solve this?
Yeah, so in today's digital world, it's like anyone with a laptop can make huge impact, because that's how accessible AI has become right now. And AI has become so accessible for everyone that you can solve global problems just with a laptop and with open source tools right now. So while developing WildSense, we just used our laptop and open source tools. And it's crazy how we didn't even spend a single rupee to build our project. So that's how accessible AI has become. So we used an open source model called YOLO V8, and we used Intel's OpenVINO toolkit, which allowed us to run WildSense on any edge device out there. Yeah. So using this, you know, students can, using the accessibility right now, students across the globe can solve problems for AI, and it's become that easy right now.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. It's fascinating. I love the passion. Please go on and solve a lot more problems for us. Take care. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it is really important that we take innovation, we take technology and put it in the hands of many. Open source models, multiple architectures, all of that enable this. But there's one other aspect that I think is really important for us, and I kind of love this word that I always keep using. I use this with my team internally. I call this, it's known as grit. Most of you have heard it. And you know, there are 3 key elements in grit, in my opinion. I think passion and perseverance are the 2 pillars of grit. And you know, we need that for any big goal, right? Whether it's semiconductor manufacturing, whether it's the big goals that we have laid out as a country, you got to have the passion, you got to persevere through the ups and downs. But there's also one word that I've added there, which is the jugaad, and I know it's like a negative thinking that we have, but I think it's a big strength that we have. We can go innovate in the most frugal, in the most practical, in the most nimble and agile way that I think we can go start to make a difference. So grit is a key mindset that we all need to be there to be successful in this AI world. But grit also means one thing. It also means that get ready. It is India's time. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.